Hello! So today I'd like to show you how I used my sketchbook to document my development process when I was in fashion school. So where I actually studied was in London College of Fashion. I did the Bespoke Tailoring course there. Before that I studied fashion design in Barcelona. But I just wanted to show an example of one of my sketchbooks on how I documented the process of my toiles and going through the toiling process to create the final garment that I wanted. So first of all, I just want to show that I used a sketchbook, and I want to talk about the sketchbook because I find it so important. I don't mind how it looks on the outside as long as I can maybe stick something on the front to show that it's my sketchbook, obviously. But I do think it's super important to have a sketchbook that does have these rings on the side. Now why? It's because if you take a sketchbook that does not have the rings, it's just a hardcover like that, when you open it, you're always going to have this little fold in here, and I just find it very inconvenient, like when I want to scan my pages after I've worked in them and I want to scan them and put them onto my computer to work in Photoshop or Illustrator to digitalize them. It's just you're always going to get this like gray fold here and like some shadowing. So I find it super convenient to use a folder like this, sketchbook, that when I open it I can fold it like that, and I can just simply work anywhere I want, and I can hold it and do this and scan one A4 at a time, or I can do A3. And so I just wanted to tell you that that is personally what I find the best. Next, also get a sketchbook that does have a bit of a heavier paper in it. Don't get thin paper because you will probably want to stick things down. You want to do something with the paper. You might want to use some watercolors, and you just want paper in your sketchbook that does not pucker at one point, or that doesn't get damaged with some of the materials you might want to use. And also you don't want it to show on the other side either. So I'm just going to start with showing a bit of this. So you'll see a little bit of my concept in here. My concept was basically combining the elegant ballerina and her movements with strong structure of ceramics. So like ceramic clay, ceramic pots, ceramic molds. I just find it super interesting to combine them both because I have a huge passion for ballet. I understand the movements of ballet and the strength that it has through muscles and the organic swifting and moving and everything, and I find that this is the complete opposite, and I found that very interesting to combine together to create some garments. So as you can see, I just had a couple inspirational photos, but this is not my concept. Yeah, not my concept book. It's more like my development book of my toiling. So as you can see, I started with some photos, some pictures of inspiration, and I continued now with already some sketches. I just like put down some sketches of some ideas that I had. Like here there's like a bell sleeve, a skirt with some like bell sleeve ideas on it coming from the side, shorts with some bell sleeve, like just putting some ideas together. This can also be however you want. It should always show your own personal style, always. I would not recommend copying anything from the internet. This is also purely just to show you an idea of what it looks like, of an idea of how to formulate your own development sketchbook, not to copy, because it just, you got to show yourself and who you are. So what I did at first is something that I like to do is I just took some fabric and I already started toiling. So what I did here is I just took fabric and I just started putting it on the mannequin, and I just started forming. You can see the front, back, the side. I just started draping. I started creating like a little sleeve here. I wanted to see how it would fit on the mannequin. I wanted to see what pattern I could make out of it. Maybe shift over the dart. As you can see, like I altered everything afterwards and where I wanted to make all my marks to show that I had a starting point, and now I came to this and why I think something was not right and why I think it's better up here, and also to write down my entire thought process, because you're not going to remember absolutely everything. You're just simply not. You have to mark your toile while you're working on it, and also document it on paper in your sketchbook, so that you see it and you know it, and also your teachers know it as well. So as you can see here, like this did not work for me, so I wanted to cut through it and make sure the puckering went away. So these are just like examples of working on a bustier for one of the projects. This was another garment that I started toiling as well, that came from my inspiration. I started draping half a little mini cropped jacket here. You can see I toiled the collar. It's quite a wide collar. It's like a more like a 50s style, I think. I'm not quite sure, but it's not a modern one, it's more of a vintage style. Here, this is something I really wanted to incorporate. This was a bell sleeve that I really enjoyed creating, and I did use it at the end as well. You can see the front, back. Here's an idea. I wanted to have it open. So you can see all my markings here is really to highlight what I wanted to focus on, what I wanted to change. That's why I also have it printed in black and white, so that you can see all of the structures of what I actually did, but then the color actually shows some changes I want to make. So it really highlights what I want to show. So as you can see here, I started working on some shorts. Now you see these shorts were probably I think my first toile, and I wanted to combine them with this mini cropped jacket. And you can see that inspiration wise, I wanted to create a curve here, a much better curve. It wasn't as successful, but that's why you do toiles. So I had to mark where I wanted to put the darts, because I needed lots of darts. Do I want it like this or like that? So this was a toiling page, as you can see. Next, as I continued with more toiling, I made some changes. Here I have just some more sketching of some ideas that I had. Here is now the development from that shirt that you saw earlier, which is this one. So you can see the difference between this and this. Now here I've already started using a fabric that is much closer to the fabric that I wanted to use in the final, but I had to see how it works with that fabric. So I got my structure finished and I toiled it again. And now on top, I got a huge piece of fabric, which is what I wanted to do, like this, like a cotton. And I started pleating. Now the pleating, it's a very couture thing to do, like this. I did one by one on the mannequin. So that's something I wanted to display as well, which is something you might want to display in your development sketchbook as well. You want to show your development of what you're doing and how you're doing it. Here you can see the next development from the shorts that you saw earlier, which is right here. As you can see, they were not puckering, they were not as round as I wanted them to be on the sides. Here neither. So you can see I was really working on these shorts to make them work. Before I figured out that I actually needed a canvas on the inside, a strong canvas, which is something I have here. So I was working on the canvas to at least make it round. Here's different types of canvassing. So I went to the shops and I found different types of canvas, and I obviously photographed that. And I think I once had a sample here that probably fell out, but I definitely got my samples, and that's something you have to show as well. Show all the samples and all of the fabrics that you do get. Super important. Here's a bit of more inspiration of the ballerina, of the strong structures here. And here I continued. This is the next step of that pleated shirt that you saw. As you can see, I've been working, and it's something I wanted to show as well, that I had been working a lot. And it's all about showing your steps in your development. It's all about that. As you can see, I was just marking with color what my next steps were. How was I altering now the pleated part into the actual bodice? So I was marking where I had my seams, where I wanted to have them. That's also, it helps me so much when I want to alter my pattern later on as well. So now here we're coming back to that jacket. Remember? The bell sleeve jacket, you can see right here, I started using a wool now. But to create the structure I wanted, I had to go through figuring out how to make it with a canvas. So I had a full canvas here, just the green part is marked. That canvas part was hand pad stitched. This part had a shoulder pad as well. And so that's something I had to show. Here I had my darts to have it fit around the bust. And here I'm measuring it. And as you can see, this was my development now. Now look at what beautiful shape I have here with the canvas. That is a tailored shape. That is tailor-made. And that's what I was studying, and that's what I wanted to learn. But I had to go through a toiling process to get there. As you can see, here's my further development. Detailings. Notes to myself. And now I was trying it on someone. Now I had to see if I was satisfied, which at this point I wasn't satisfied at what it looked like. So I had to keep going. I played with the bell sleeve, and I personally design much better, or I work with a design process of toiling. I toile and then I sketch, and I toile and then I sketch, and that's just personally me. And everyone is different. Everyone works a different way. You can see this is how it looked like when I was pad stitching. You can see all of the little stitches here, the blue stitches here and the white stitches here. Here I actually have cutouts from leftovers of it, so pad stitched like that. You can see the canvas here and the damet here. Same with the white one. And I put it in here just to literally show what it was like and what my stitching was like and what I used. And I used this at the bottom, so these are kind of like mini like little weights that you put in the bottom of a jacket. It's a very Chanel thing to do, to put them here, to bring weight to it so it just falls down heavier and it doesn't flap around. Something I wanted to show as well. And you can see here I had come to a much better stage of the process of my shorts. So now I figured out how to use the canvas, and this canvas was an extremely strong canvas, fusible canvas, extremely strong, very, very firm. And now that I added it into all the panels, I was starting to receive that structure that I wanted. It's basically a structure of an upside down pot, basically, you know, the ceramic pot. Usually they're the other way around like that, and this one I just wanted upside down to create it into a pair of shorts. Here you can see I started fitting them on. I obviously didn't work on the seam yet, on the hem, but here I did, and you can see it's a much better development than the very first one. Here I started working on a new jacket. So basically, as you can see, my process is all about going from one step to the next, to the next, to showing exactly like what I've been doing. And that's all what it's about. So there's a difference between having a development sketchbook of like an actual sketchbook and the difference between having a portfolio and that sketchbook. The portfolio, you would not show this kind of stuff. And the portfolio is an edited selection of all this, the best parts that you want to show. But this is something you definitely have to do. So I kept sketching and toiling and going through processes, and as you can see, this is what I found was a very good example for myself of how I showed my development. And it was very clear how I got from stage A to stage B. And I was very happy with my outcomes. And here you can see that I learned, for example, I learned how to use that canvas, as you saw with the shorts. And I applied that canvassing technique here as well with the bell. With the bell curves, let's call them, coming out of the skirt, and so it was all a process. So I hope you liked seeing my development process for a sketchbook in tailoring or even for fashion design. I hope it inspired you to have a great layout for yourself and a great sketchbook, and just remember that you always have to show yourself. Always show what your personal style is, and just do you. Don't be afraid to put anything down. The more you put down that's in your mind, the better, because your sketchbook is basically there to put everything down that you had thought about. All your thoughts. It's like your thought book, basically. Your idea book. Everything you can put down in the way that you want. Alright? I hope you enjoyed this.